Welcome everybody to another episode of the Key to Games podcast. Here on Game Wisdom, we examine the art and science of games. I am Josh Weiser, and joining me, my co-host, indie developer from Casual Game Studio, Joshua Reyes. How are you doing on this very cold and very wintry day?
Yeah. Thanks for reminding me. I had some internet issues earlier this morning because it was too frozen for, I guess, data to pass through. And luckily they were able to fix that. And then let's see, what else was it? I've been messing a lot with Docker and trying to get my own website hosted. So that has been just a rabbit hole of just unfathomable. I can't even gauge how deep it goes. And also, me and you have been on the same quest for a chair. And so that has been interesting. As trying to see which one fits the budget and which ones actually works. Yeah. I was looking at this one IKEA chair, and the shipping was more than the chair itself. The chair was like, oh, it's a great deal, $249. Shipping, literally $400. So, other than that, how are you doing, Josh?
This is like the week of like old man problems. I had to go to the doctor about that ringing in my ears, and the only thing I got was drink less caffeine, get more sleep, and be less stress. Because you can be less stress. That's the I should have turned that into a self-help book for all the game devs, right?
Yeah, we'll work on that one. Be less stress for sure. And I mean, I'm not sure how you can cut out caffeine because that's, we got to get things done. So that's a tough one.
Yeah. And apparently I have above average hearing. So I have super hearing, but I still have ringing in my ear. So they don't know what's going on.
So you can hear the ringing even more.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And I've been trying to adjust the positioning of my monitor, try to make it a little bit higher or lower. I think I made it too high because I was getting like this pulling in my back as I was typing. So now I'm dealing with that on top of the book writing, on top of everything else. So it's just adding more difficulty to everything.
Right, more NG++. And I kind of have the same issue because I have 4 monitors. So sometimes if I'm looking like wonky at some different direction, it's because I have a lot of monitors to look at. And so I actually adjusted mine literally the same time you adjusted yours. So to like look at one, I'm like cranking my neck 100. So yeah, old man problem week.
Oh, yes. Which I guess is
which leads to
about being a competitive gamer, because which is the complete opposite of what we see in that side of things. But this was a topic that we were talking about last week, and then we got the AI art. We still need to get Tomo on for a discussion. We need to grab him when time is all aligned.
It's still a hot topic, and we can definitely bring it on. I mean, it's definitely getting deeper and deeper, and I have been obsessed with it. Also, like they give you a limit on the ChatGPT per hour, and so like every hour I run out of questions and queries to it, so I'm using it a lot. I have a feeling Tomo might be doing the same, so as soon as he is available, that one will be great to do.
But the other discussion we were going to talk about is competitive games.
Yes.
Like a rumbling noise in the background.
Is that me?
I think so. That was weird. It's kind of like a fan or something like noise.
Yeah, no fans.
Weird. Well, it's not like the wind or the storm around there.
Well, it is like it's literally like 14 degrees right now, so
we'll see if Josh gets frozen figuratively and literally, we'll know why.
We know why. All right, hopefully the audio is holding up. Just let me know in chat.
All right. But our discussion is about kind of how competitive games and competitive game design has really grown to become a dominant factor for not just live service games in general, but how someone approaches developing a game. And this is something that I think has really kind of grew over the past, I would say maybe 20 years, give or take. Like, we really started to notice this in the 2000s. In the 90s, competitive games are still considered like this very little thing. Even though we had the rise of StarCraft, the FGC, and so on, it didn't really become like huge business until like the 2000s when more developers were really trying to jump on. We wanted to make the next StarCraft. So this led to, of course, Company of Heroes, the Command and Conquer reboots or revisions, even, of course, Blizzard chasing this with StarCraft. And then that gave way to then the competitive or professional first-person shooter side. And then we saw, of course, the rise of Call of Duty, Battlefield, Team Fortress was, I think, an esport for some
Yes.
time.
Yes.
The slew of Battle Royale style games. And it has been,
Evo.
yep,
And then
Evo, League of
League of Legends.
Legends,
Jeez.
Dota.
Dota.
And it's one of those things that either means very little to you or it means the entire world, both from a consumer standpoint and from a developer standpoint, because there is a ridiculous amount of money if your game becomes the next big esport. You get
Definitely.
sponsorships. It's basically infinite marketing for your game. You have every major pro and every major team covering your game and showing footage of it. You're going to get into major tournaments. You're going to have people sponsoring you. And from like an educational standpoint, I've even been like seeing from like schools and such, we're seeing more esports related programs. We're seeing
Yes.
scholarships for esports
Yes.
teams. Here in New Jersey, there's, I think it's a Garden State Warriors, or there's like an actual organization that is like organizing all the esports in New Jersey. So it is a very big deal. Right before COVID hit, there was going to be a giant Fortnite convention center or a stadium built in Pennsylvania, and that, when COVID unfortunately hit, kind of stopped that from happening. But there's a lot of money tied up in esports, and it's why so many developers want to chase that.
Yeah,
But
like 5 minutes down the street, there's a billboard for a college, and like the main thing is we're ranked. I think they're ranked number 7 or 8 in esports, and that's on the thing, like on a literal billboard. Gaming, it's a college gaming thing, and I mean, so it's huge money. Yeah,
mhm,
definitely. And I mean that's I mean one of the biggest positives, if we're going to discuss about the positives of it, is the amount of tension and money that is brought into game development for sure. And
mhm,
when it's a part of like academia, due to
mhm,
that, that's pretty cool. So definitely, it definitely has affected a lot of things.
mhm. Yep. And it is one of those aspects that has really changed how much you can, or how much people expect out of games these days. That
Yeah,
it means a lot in terms of the design standpoint. But the question is, and this is something that we were talking about when we first came up with this concept, is it helping game design? And that is certainly debatable. Because one of the things that we've been seeing as developers are trying to kind of finagle their games into being the next big esport is that it can sometimes lead to the game feeling very watered down, or very like, oh, just like kind of like smooth out all the interesting spikes or aspects of it. And it's definitely one of the things that we see, especially on the fighting game side, because the
yeah,
FGC is a community, or in terms of the games that are played, on one hand, they are very, player skill driven, they're very complicated to learn. On the other side, there really hasn't been like, has there ever been like massive innovations in terms of fighting game gameplay? Like, has that genre evolved in the same way that we've seen, RPG, shooters, even the strategy genre had its massive shift towards like, micro style with Company of Heroes, or even going, full 4X grand with like Total War, Stellaris, and so on.
I think like you were saying about the watered down feeling, I think that is very apparent in all the designs that they all are very standardized in the way they operate due to the, I guess, the esport nature, right? So they kind of have to be standardized in some type of fashion and way, and that does lead to that. And so as far as innovation in their own genre, I would say they've led to more stagnation than anything. Um, what they have led to though is in like as far as like balancing content creation, things of that nature, which we'll get into later. But definitely I believe it's stagnated the genres. Like I've fighting genres have been the same and have the same type of rule set for what, 20 years now, right? Like I don't
Mhm.
think there's been any type of change to that, on the same things so for every other genre that you mentioned, Josh, right? Correct.
Mhm.
So yeah, definitely none in that area at all.
And I think someone will probably be quick to point out, well, what about Smash Brothers? And the thing about was Smash was that Smash was not designed as a competitive game. In interviews, Nintendo and Sakurai have, stated, we didn't expect this to be, an esport, and the game
It
was not,
organically emerged, yeah.
yeah, and the game was never balanced or designed around a competitive scene. And what we've seen over the past decade, even beyond that, was the FGC and tournaments, come up with their own, rule set for how to play the game at the tournament level. No items, certain characters are banned, and it plays again very differently than what you would play, in a single player standpoint or even among friends. And a lot of that contention we've seen between the FGC and Nintendo in that respect has been Nintendo just kind of saying, eh. Like they're not really caring about supporting Smash or dedicating, any kind of resources to it as an esport. Whereas, contrast this to say, Valve or Blizzard,
Yeah.
if one of their games got to like a Smash level of recognition, they would have thrown, all the money and all the attention on it.
Yeah, it's very strange that Nintendo's admission to Smash Brothers, and like you stated, it wasn't designed to be what it has become. That it organically evolves through community, and that's kind of how like the fighting game community was back in the day. It was all grassroots, and it evolved from there. And yeah, and it's just strange to see Nintendo not really support them, and you think they would, like you said, any other, because it's literally a cash printing machine,
Mm-hmm.
and Nintendo does like cash, so it's strange that they don't that they haven't jumped into it. But yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And what we've seen, like, about kind of the evolution of genres has been a kind of, as you said, like this kind of like stagnation when it
Yeah.
comes to evolving mechanics and design. I think that's probably a good point to kind of start off or lead in with is what do we mean by competitive game design or competitive gameplay in a title? Because as we've said, as anyone who has watched, a professional match of Counter Strike, Dota, whatever, it is not the same as playing these games either, among friends or in a casual setting. So
No.
I guess for you, since you are more versed in fighting games than I am, when we talk about how playing a game competitively differs from playing it, casually or against an AI, what does that mean for like a fighting game fan or fighting game design?
Yeah. Well, like it definitely means like I guess because it, for this, like for especially for fighting games, like it's a very community, and so to be involved in it, you have to dedicate a lot of time if you really want to be involved in it. So it involves a lot of time, definitely, for sure, and it involves a lot of like study of combos, of practices, and like watching tournaments. Like I watch every single Evo, even though I don't play so much as I should, but I play daily. Probably about
Mhm.
like I've said before, during my cardio for about 30 minutes, I play about Tekken 7, right? And I play competitively ranked, right? And so we're talking about the full anxiety, you can lose your levels and stuff like that. And that's how I like to play. And so what it means, I think the competitive is just completely different than casual multiplayer in so many facets, and the way that ranked, for one, I think if we had some players who play ranked like League of Legends, they would talk about the playing ranked versus playing bots and stuff like that. And but so yeah, but playing competitively is definitely a lot more dedication to the game than just than just playing casually, for sure. Requires a lot of dedication.
Mm-hmm. And getting to that point, as you said, about, ranking up and ranking down,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is something that if we kind of track, the toxic behavior like people talk about when it comes to playing video games, we could probably have a really one-to-one with how much competitive rank modes and stuff like that have become an aspect of multiplayer games. Where, as anyone knows, it's not just you lose this match, we move on to the next. It's you lose this match, your ranking goes down,
Goes
now you're
down.
placed lower. If there's a season reward, you now get less rewards out of that. If you're on a team where you're playing professionally, that means that your team is now hurt. And it has led to it has, I guess, as a small positive, it's led to a very lucrative streamer rage compilation economy
Yeah.
on Twitch and YouTube.
Also, like a coaching, I guess, coaching, like
Hmm.
the people, like game coaching and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely. But like the like competitive anxiety or like multiplayer anxiety is a massive facet. I mean, I know like for you, right? You're not a big fan of competitive gaming at all, right?
No, not
And
really.
and I would say that is. Do you think that's like one of the bases? Like,
Yeah, the stress of having to worry about, oh, if I don't do this and my whole team fails. And,
yeah.
ranking and all that, it just does not interest me to deal with that. I try to play, like, ranked low. This was, like, 10 years ago, and it was just,
Oh my god.
no, like, it just got so stressful to do that.
It was even more, it was so toxic back then. Yeah, definitely. I
Hmm.
wouldn't even imagine. I wish there, I know we have some lol in our Discord. I wish they were on right now.
Hmm. I still remember when I think like the funniest part was when Thor and I decided to try the roguelike mode in Dota. It's not even playing it competitively; it's a roguelike mode, and people were
Wow.
yelling at us because we didn't properly farm or we weren't choosing the right perks. Even
That's
in a
great.
roguelike, we get
It's great.
salt thrown at us.
It's great, and it's like, and it's so like, just like a side point. It's like, why would when you have such toxic communities and you have like, and you have such competitive anxiety, like why would you, what is attractive about these type of games? I guess you could say like it attracts a very niche type of gamer, right?
Hmm. But that niche has certainly led to a lot of money, and has led to a lot of these games really trying to court that. And like one of the interesting aspects was looking at the difference between Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2. Now, I
Yeah.
have not touched Overwatch, even the first one, in at least 4 to 5 years, so I have very little, investment in playing Overwatch 2.
Same.
But like looking at what people have been talking about, like they've changed a lot of the kind of basic elements of that game, and once again, trying to make it more competitive friendly. And I think one of the more interesting aspects. I want to get your thoughts on this as well as anyone watching this live recorded. It feels like part of the competitive gameplay loop is removing as much variance that can happen during a play as possible. That it's about, we don't want the game to factor into wins or loss. We want it to be as much player driven as possible.
Yeah, skill
So,
based.
yeah, so I just wonder, like, if, like, do you feel the same way, or am I just like being crazy when it comes to this?
Well, could you expand on that a little bit? I mean, like, are you talking like skill based or less like game based, like randomness of a game?
Yeah, like less game based, less abstraction. Like it's not about, you know, I guess how do I put this? It's like you're not going to win or lose. Like I guess Smash would be a good example. Like in Smash, if you're playing this in a general play, a random item can tip the balance. A
Right.
stage effect can mess with your strategy. Something that forces you to adapt without that is not about your opponent. Whereas with a lot of competitive games, all that stuff gets turned off. There's no
Yeah.
items, no stage effects. It's very
Yes.
much just here's player one, here's player 2, and
It's
whatever happens
it's literally like it's literally almost stripped down to like if you were looking at like a basketball game or a
Hmm.
football game, it's like two jerseys and that's it. And because like I think we talked about it before. Like you can't have an item because it affects the way like a hitbox looks or anything like that. And that works on
Hmm.
anything. First person games. Like if my gun could be customized a little bit differently and I could look just a little bit different, my perception would, your perception would be different, and so that could be a competitive advantage in any way. And so that's why everything has to be so standardized, because I mean, to like a literal like chess level, because and I think that's one of the painful parts about it is that these games are not innovative due to that fact, is because they have to be so stripped down and bare bones in order to be competitive, or to
Hmm.
function as a competitive game, right? And so that's why that they end up that way.
Hmm.
So
And
no, Josh, no, you're not. No, you're right. You're spot on about that. I don't think you're crazy at all.
and it seems like whenever a game tries to kind of like go against the grain or implement something
Rules.
else, it gets shut down.
Yeah.
And I guess and this is I think like the great challenge, the great contradiction here, that you can have an amazing multiplayer game, and by extension, it can be a horrible competitive game. Just as you can have a game that is not fun, not enjoyable to play from a general standpoint, but is just absolutely fantastic at the super high end competitive side. I think an example of this would be something like Hunt Showdown, the kind of like two-player or small group battle royale. That game has the kind of random elements of enemies wandering around the map, but at the end of the day, it's still about how great you are at being able to shoot and deal with your enemies, and there's a lot at stake. What was it? That Escape from Tarkov, I've heard, is another good
Yes.
example of that. And it's that idea of, I guess, like, very few, and I think this is another thing that has held back a lot of competitive games. They've always been, I think, very lacking when it comes to onboarding and approachability. Like, if you remember, like, a few years ago when it was either Capcom or another fighting game developer started implementing, like, the easy combo system. So instead of you having to learn an advanced combo, if you just do, square,
Yeah.
square, 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 the character will auto perform whatever that combo may be. And the FGC had, like, a small, nuclear explosion when that was
Right.
announced.
Immediately, like, and that's the wrong stance. Like, instead of like making, because competitive play is about skill, like you said, it's
Hmm.
all about skill. And so like the opposite of making something easier is the complete opposite. The way to go about it is have better onboarding, right?
Hmm.
So like you would have a better way to train the combos, or you better like better ways to practice different variations and practice with different levels of AI, etc. That's progressive also, so you can have like progressive overload
Hmm.
of the different variances in this game, and you can do the same with like a shooting game. I mean, like back in Quake, we had fuzzy AI bots
Hmm.
that were programmed to progressively get harder, and you can adjust them, and they could train and they could learn. So exists right, like currently, right? And you can do it that way. It's just that it needs to be implemented correctly. Like some games just dump you in, and they've been running for I don't know how long, 10 years, and the player base is like will just instantly destroy you, and so you have no chance, right? And so like
Hmm.
it's really important to also have like really well matched. You need to have a broad, not also a broad player base that's diverse enough where the matchmaking makes sense, and then it has to have excellent matchmaking for it to work too. Also,
Hmm. And matchmaking is another big point about why onboarding is oftentimes so frustrating
yeah,
in these games. Because if I'm a new player and the very first thing I go up against is someone who has 8,000 hours in the game, like, who's getting any value out of that? Like,
I feel so bad when I do that because I'll be playing Tekken it's there and I have like 8,000,000 wins, right? And then it's a first fight and I'm like, how unfair is this? Why do I get this player with 0 wins at everything?
When I played that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fighting game, I load up at 5 o'clock in the morning, thinking, "Well, I'm sure everyone says there's no one playing this game. There's nothing like that." In 5 seconds, I got matched with someone who had about 1,600 wins, 10 losses, next to my 0-0 score.
How
And
did that go? How was that? Was
I
that
beat
fun
him
onboarding?
perfect. All 3 rounds completely perfect. It was so easy. It was basically like I throw a hit, the guy just counters with a combo, and then that's the entire round. Like
That's
he
it. That's
just,
the round. Yeah.
it's like I just put the controller down, just watch him do a 72 hit combo, and there's nothing I can do about it. Yeah,
Right.
exactly, Mojo. Yeah, and again, it's that situation where this is another big aspect behind I think one of the major failings of competitive games, and this is something I really wanted to bring up. They are always terrible when it comes to converting single player or offline players to online and rank. Some games just throw their hands up and say, we quit. Like, the single
Yeah.
player mode is over here, the multiplayer is over there, and the two shall never mingle. This is, I think, one of the things they did with StarCraft 2, that playing this, if you try to take what you learn in the single player campaign of StarCraft 2 to multiplayer, you are done. You will never win a single match.
Yeah. I tried doing that and it was a bad experience.
And I guess the question is, and I guess I'm going to throw this over to you into the chat. Is that the right way to do it? Like, should there be some attempt at trying to convert, the offline single player side of the game to multiplayer? Or is that just, you're just throwing money, down the well at that point, or laying it on
No,
fire?
I think you're investing in the game, not throwing it down the well, because if you have a multiplayer component to the game and it's a live service, then the ability for it to add longevity to the game is just. I mean, it just depends on how well it supports and how good the game is, and so it can last. I mean, we have games that lasted and lasted just through constant support. So I think it's definitely worth the investment, Josh. So
Mm-hmm. So then the next question, however, is how do you do that? Because,
yeah. So well, go ahead, Josh, and then I'll jump in
well, I
if
was
you
going
have
to say,
something.
like, the challenge is so much in trying to get someone to even just,
Just
enjoy that level. Because I remember with, like, Mortal
yeah,
Kombat 11, like, as a
uh,
really good point, like, it had some really fantastic onboarding. Not as good as Skullgirls, but still better than average. But all the aspects that made the single player side interesting, being able to, custom your characters or customize them and all that, the second you start rank play, that gets thrown away. We can't, that's not
right.
allowed.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, and that's that. Like we said, I mean, that's just going to be common for ranked play is those all customization and stuff like that is not allowed. Some games do allow it, like Tekken 7. You can do that, but if not in full competitive tournament play, it's not allowed. You have to do default characters and everything like that because of the hitboxes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so the question was, how do we properly convert the player from single to
Mm-hmm.
multiplayer? And it's basically with excellent progressive tutorials, and excellent AI, right? Because the thing is that there's so many skills that you need to pick up, and just saying, okay, here you go, here's multiplayer, and again, when nothing translates, also it's a completely different game. Then you need to explain it. You need to have a different type of tutorial, and again, it's just super important for that way. And so how you would just with like, okay, you start. with the basic movements. You start with that, and then once it starts getting complex, then you use like AI, and like we're at the point right now with machine learning and AI. It could easily replicate a match. You can easily record a match, like a common match, and like just replay variances of that. There's so many different ways that you can simulate like a common match at a certain skill level. So if the person's first starting out, simulate a low level 0-0 match with the AI, and then slowly increase it and slowly introduce new concepts and new ideas. Here's the drop thing from the sky. Now you're allowed, slowly increase it, and that way it'll allow the player to get in. Because just dumping in the player to someone who has a quadrillion wins is more than likely going to push them away from the game. I literally feel terrible when I get against someone with 0 wins, and it's their first, and then it's like first time playing, and it's like, do I have to show them like what it's like around here? Or,
is it time for the lesson in pain?
Is it time for the lesson? And I usually have to give them the lesson because someone will gladly take that opportunity.
Oh yes.
Yeah, but I think that's how you do it, and I think right now, like we've been talking, totally possible. Did my audio dropping out?
Yeah, it dropped like a split second there.
Okay, my internet is too frozen, so hopefully I don't freeze. Okay, go ahead, Josh.
But yeah, like to that point, like a lot of the games that fail in terms of onboarding, they present a tutorial that has in no way, shape, or form anything to get the player to that next step. And this is the thing that drives me crazy. Like, I play fighting games, and here's a tutorial. Move left and right. Press a punch button. Block. Okay, that's all you need. Now go play rank mode, and you know everything about that game. And again, as you said, like having an AI, and this is another big point. I want to throw this out to every fighting game or any competitive game designer out there. To a new player, a programmable AI is worthless to them. Do you think someone who has never played the game is going to know exactly how to set up an AI to train them?
Yeah.
Have preset AI. Like, this is something from, like, real-time strategy games. How many RTSs have, this is the easy AI, this is the normal AI, this is the economic AI, aggressive, turtle, boomer, or just boom. That was one of the things about Civilization, being able to set up an entire match of, okay, I want to have all the aggressive civs, I want to have all the neutrals. And these are ways, again, of you're letting the player choose it, but it's making it it's making it as accommodating as one can be. And here's a very interesting factoid. I'm going to quiz you and the chat on this one for a second. I looked up the achievement rates for Street Fighter V on Steam, and I want to see who can guess this. What percentage of the fan base, or the people who played on Steam, won one ranked match? You got the one ranked match achievement. Because I have a feeling no one is going to get close to this. And while you're doing that, hey Chris, how are you doing?
Yeah, let me see what chat says.
Someone in chat is surprisingly close. I'm not going to say which one, though.
Oh.
The achievement for winning one ranked match in Street Fighter V.
In Street Fighter V.
Which apparently I did get, and I don't know how I got that. I may have played against someone who was off, whose internet crashed when the match started.
All right, I'm gonna go with 8%.
All right, and I'll give Mojo a second to get his thing here. Win one. Just
one
win
match.
one ranked match.
All you have to do.
Oh, we got 25, huh? From Tara. Okay, so you would think just one would be incredibly easy. But according to the Steam achievement rates, it is at 27.7% on winning one ranked match.
27. Okay, that's actually higher than I thought. but it's still terribly low.
Yes. And again, we're not even talking about like going up professionally or becoming a top player. That is just winning one
One
match.
match.
27.7%. Somehow I got the 21.7 achievement, win 3 ranked matches in a row. I don't even know how I did that one. I may have hacked that.
You were hacking. I should have
Yeah.
played.
And let's see, win 10 ranked matches is at 20%. So what is happening, of course, is that most likely 63% of the player base churned out immediately, or they churned out probably at the tutorial, and that was it. It didn't stabilize. Yeah, I think that is it, Chris. I got possessed by a professional FGC player who felt sorry for me. But again, what ended up happening is that 63% of the player base gone. Like, out, they are... Yeah, it does have single player.
Yes, a single player.
Did I even beat a single... Oh, yeah. I cleared 46.8%, beat the story mode. And 91.6% finished the tutorial. That could have been what I did, Mojo.
How many beat the story? Does it...
beating it one time was at 46.8%.
Oh, okay, so they actually played the game. So that's not bad.
So here's another fun thing. Only 33.7% tried out the training mode for 30 minutes. So a lot of people did not try practicing in that game.
Can we get those same stats for Tekken 7?
I was just about to look that up because I had a feeling you were going to say that. Let's see what Tekken 7 is. I don't think I even got this one. Let's see. Over to 1, trigger 10. Winning offline versus victory. Is that? Finish the prologue. Bought 10 on it. It's actually higher. So let's see.
Yeah, they're more interested in the fighting game, I guess. They're more dedicated fan bases, must be.
Let's see. In terms of achieving a great victory, 69.3% got that achievement. At least according to Steam. 54 beat the prologue, which I actually did. Let's see. 10 online battles. Well, I technically did that with Pony, so I guess I was kind of a cheat there. Was 50. Okay. Won a player match online. 48.6%.
Right on.
That is technically a lot higher. Okay, here it is. Won a ranked match online. 39.4.
39. Okay.
So, bad, but still better than Street Fighter 5.
Yeah, and I can definitely I can't speak for Street Fighter's onboarding, but the Tekken one is definitely way more intense, and it goes real in depth. Like, it'll show you frames. It does punishment mode, so you can practice common movement sets. Like where you were saying the preset, you can set those up for the AI, and it'll be like, okay, do just like basic spammy stuff, or just do like this, and so it works really well. And you can spend a lot. How much time did they spend in training mode?
That I don't know. Let's see if I can look that up really fast. I was also looking up Skullgirls. And the problem with Skullgirls is because they had their re-release, the second Encore is now like the main version. It doesn't transfer the achievements from the first version over, so it's not really accurate in terms of.
So someone would have to like compile them together.
Yeah. Let's see. Training mode in Tekken. Overall, deal damage, prologue. Floor break. And I think like Killer Instinct has like 7,000 achievements in it. I think when I tried to look that one up or something like that. Let's see. Deal. Get promoted. Is there a training mode, or is very? I'm not seeing an achievement for training mode on Tekken 7.
Wow.
And I can look up because I actually did this during when I was doing looking up churn rates for when I was reviewing achievement rates in games. I was looking them up for all the major fighting games, and they're all, again, just really bad in terms of keeping that up.
Yeah.
So, Mortal Kombat 11, as I praised it a minute ago, or a few minutes ago, about having really good onboarding, let's see. 33.1% beat the story mode. But again, that story mode is kind of like its own, like, fully length, 8 to 10 hour long game.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
completely different.
let's see. 30% cleared all the tutorials.
Wow.
Let's
Okay, and
see.
is there a beat 1-1 match?
Let's
One
see.
ranked.
Advanced Turtles, play a group battle, brutalities. Oh, this is very low. Equip 5. Do they even have it? Duck 100 times during a match is an achievement. Complete the town. Really? There's not. Either it's higher than I thought, or it's not here. Complete tutorial. Run 5 miles. Doesn't seem like they're
Strange.
tracking ranked play at all. There's
When,
play 50 casual matches, which is at 6.3%.
oh.
But I am not seeing a win, equip 5 different victories. That's not right. Perform fatalities. Complete all the strategy tutorials. Yeah, I'm not seeing and I think that could actually be a very interesting metric. I think more developers should be keeping track of is
Definitely.
how many people beat your tutorial, how many people play a ranked match, and I think more importantly, how many people actually win a ranked match.
Definitely.
And this is again that kind of situation of when you're trying to onboard people into these different aspects. And while I'm trying to do some multitasking, I'm gonna look up Dragon Ball Fighter Z because that was another
Okay.
one that got really popular. And we
So
played it one night, and oh boy,
so we're it was like it's like we're talking like 23, what it was, 28% or something like that when one match. So and that really indicates to me that the matchmaking is really bad, right? Because it should match
hmm
someone to a similar level. Like it should be finding someone 0 wins if you're 0 wins, right?
hmm
And it should be trying its best to match you well. So most likely, I think people, they could probably only take 1 or 2 like pain making losses in the fighting, and if that's the first ones they get, that's about it. I mean,
yeah,
we're like we've talked about, for every game, it's only a few moments. You only got a few moments to keep them there, and if their first few moments in multiplayer are just utter devastation, they're like, well, I know what I'm in for, I'm out of here.
yeah. So I'll throw it to the chat. I'll throw it to everyone watching. What do you think the achievement rate is for Dragon Ball Fighter Z? For let's see, where was I? Just had it. Play one, complete story mode. Play. Okay, here's for playing a ranked match, not winning. Playing one ranked game of Dragon Ball Fighter Z. What do you think the achievement rate is for it?
One ranked game. Okay, so it was. I'll go with 23%.
All right. And I'll give chat a second to get that in. I'm afraid Mojo, they would wish that. I think any developer would wish that rating. But while I'm waiting for chat, to Mojo's comment about having issues with matchmaking, a lot of it, again, is the player base, or the player pool.
Right.
If you're trying to play a game week 1 of it being out, you're going to find a lot of people of comparative skill. If you're trying to find, a 0-0 newbie 6 years into a game, that is a far harder sell. It's why a lot of these games tend to struggle when it comes to long-term kind of supporting the player base. It kind of becomes locked into the, all you have is the super high levels playing against everyone else. And
Yeah.
I will talk about with that. I want to rant about Dead by Daylight, but I'll say that for like the next minute.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So,
I was wondering if that was going to come up. I was about to, yeah, Dead by Daylight for sure.
all right.
It's
So I think we got our scores in, and in terms of winning, or I'm sorry, just playing a ranked match,
just playing it.
24.2%.
Wow.
Let's
And
see.
did they beat the story? Well, how many did they beat the story? This must not have been good.
See,
The
race
prologue
story.
or
Let's see. Complete the Super Warrior arc is at 20.5%. Less people beat the
Wow.
story than they played rank play. That is an interesting one. Let's
That's
see.
not good stats. We don't want those stats. You don't want that.
And 65% apparently beat one tutorial,
One
which I think that's what I
tutorial.
did. And that's the only achievement that I
Wow.
have in that game. And again, this is what we were saying at the very beginning of this conversation, that despite there being ridiculous amount of money in terms of esports and trying to get people, it is a niche of a niche of a niche in
That's
terms of
right.
the actual play of it. And again, like we can competitive players will, scream and shout that their games are really good to play and they're fantastic and they're so deep to enjoy. But when you lose 70, 80, 90% of the player base within 20 minutes, even sometimes within 90 seconds of loading it up, they're not as marketable, I think, as people may be led to believe.
Exactly. Well said, Josh.
To Chris's comment, more approachable fighter than Smash Brothers. I think we could maybe argue that Multiverses, the
Multiverse.
WB version of Smash, could be up there. But there's also rage videos of people playing that as well.
I didn't play Rumbleverse, which is shutting down.
Yep,
Um, so I
we
don't
played
know.
that one night. Thor and
How
I
was
did that.
that?
It was all right, but
Mm,
again, it's that issue of how do you court someone to play a game that is entirely competitive driven?
yeah.
And it's very tough because for a lot of the kind of like modern competitive driven games, they just throw the single player out the window. It is all ranked play, it's all multiplayer based play. And on one hand, that guarantees people are going to play it. But on the other hand, it's like, well, if I'm a newbie, do I want to spend the next 2 hours getting crushed, or do I want to go play something else? And
Yeah, exactly.
there was another game that got shut down as well. I think it was like that dodgeball style one, City Knockout, something that was published by EA.
Oh,
And
gosh, I
Knockout
wish you could remember.
Cities,
Knockout
Knockout,
City.
something like that. And here's that point again, like when it first came out, people couldn't stop talking about it. It was like every like streamer was playing it. Everybody was trying to play that game. And then it just went kaput. And it's again like that's kind of like the dark side of competitive games. Either nobody shuts up about them, or they disappear into the fog and we never hear or see them ever again. And I'm sure everyone watching this, you guys probably have forgotten, so have I, all the live service and multiplayer based games have come out in the last 3 years. Like, don't even
Wow.
bother, like 10 years. That would be impossible for us. But how many of these games have come out and then they just disappeared? I mean, like, Fall Guys is, I think, the only one of kind of like that particular style that people are still playing. But even to that point, it is nowhere near as big as it was 3 years ago. We could
Yeah.
even argue like Fortnite and Rocket League are also along those lines. I'm gonna look
I
up
wonder what. Yeah, look those up.
while I'm
Wonder.
doing. Let's see. Yeah, I think the fighting game. So it had that huge boost, like Street Fighter, like 4 and 5. And even like MK, like the MK trilogy. I think revived the fighting game at least in the casual standpoint. But they really haven't done all that much in terms of trying to get new people to play. It's always the same kind of crowd that will play these games.
Yeah, there is I wouldn't say that it's niche. I mean, have you watched Evo? There's so many
Mm-hmm.
people that attend that. And I mean, I personally watch it also, and it's very niche, but the niche is gigantic, and there's a lot of money.
Yep. Oh wait, Rocket League is no longer on Steam, so
Oh
I
no.
can't uh, look it up directly like that anymore.
Did it go to the EGS store then?
Yeah. I wonder if I can look it up through my game library because I think I had it. Well, I'll load up Steam while I'm talking and see if I can pull it up through there. But the niche side of things, yeah, there you go, Chris, exactly. Let's see. Do I even have it on my list?
I think Rocket League probably went to like the Epic Game Store is what I'm thinking. Right?
Yeah. Okay, I do have it. Let's see. But these scores are going to be, I think, a little bit skewed. It's fact that hasn't been on Steam in like 2 to 3 years.
That's perfect, Chris. Slay the Spire of fighting games.
Yeah. So let's see. Win a 3v3 is at 82.8% on Steam. Win a total of 5 games is at 78.5. Win 2v2 is 72.2. Let's see. Where is win? Okay, so 55.2% won a 1v1.
Wow.
So that is not bad. I would say that is definitely a pretty good metric.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Let's see. Win your first game of the season was at 25.2.
And this was for what again?
Rocket League.
Rocket League. Oh yes, definitely. I think Rocket League had excellent matchmaking.
And it's also, I think, far easier to get into.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see. Multiverses is mixed right now. I don't know what happened there. Let's see. Maybe LeBron James couldn't save Rocket Multiverses. Let's see. 74% play one matchmaking game. And let's see. Play 25 matches at 23%. And yeah, like this again is that great issue when it comes to competitive games is what keeps someone who's not interested in rank mode invested in these games? And the easy answer would be like a cosmetic, a season pass, like what they do with Fortnite and a lot of these games. But again, that's not gameplay. That is adjacent to the actual gameplay. And this is what kills me about when I try to play them, is like, okay, I can learn this game and die and fail 400 matches, 500 matches, whatever. Or do I go play a game like a Dark Souls game or a roguelike or something where, I can get that dopamine fix of you win or the excitement of the play far easier, far quicker, and sometimes far cheaper. Like, this is one of the other things I think kind of hurts the fighting game side. Fighting games are still priced usually $50 to $60, at retail. I think Street Fighter 6 gonna be $69 now.
Jeez.
No, still $59.
$59.
But again, it's that question of why the heck would someone like me ever spend $60 on a fighting game? The only reason I bought the JoJo game was thanks to like Green Man Gaming and Creds and all that. I think I got for like $34, $35. I bought
Tekken 7 on Steam for like $7 too, right?
Yeah, like it was like I think at the Gamers Gate, not the other Gamer Gate, but the other store, that was like $8 for here's every single DLC for Tekken 7. I was like, okay, $8. I can spring with that, but again, why would a new player spend $70, $60 on a fighting game just to get killed for 4 or 5 hours at minimum?
See, so that's a good point for fighting games to have at least like like well established ones, right? To have like a free, at least like to try it, and then a training mode for free to see if you like it, and that would definitely help get more players in because I mean, like you were saying, like what a lot of the times after I finish playing Tekken 7, I'm like, why did I play that? Like, what? I wasted my time. Like, I could have been playing Slay the Spire instead. Like, why did I play this competitive game? And so there is that feeling, like you played or you lost a rank, and it's like, what exactly did I what did I walk away with? Experience wise or game wise, and so that's definitely something to contemplate. Slay the fighter, perfect. I'll get on it.
Oh yeah, there's that one fighting game. Was it a Tobal number 1 or something like that for the PlayStation 1 that had a roguelike
Yes.
dungeon crawler mode, and I remember that.
Yes. Urge. How do you pronounce it on the
Eher
PS1?
guy, Eher guy. I
Yeah.
remember that too, but I cannot remember any gameplay of that. I just remember Tobal number
Amazing.
one or whatever it
Yeah.
was
No,
called.
it had an amazing dungeon mode. It was really
Yeah. Oh yeah, that would be good, Dyer. Make the competitive side free, $80. Didn't Capcom try to do that? Like they try to charge like for a digital story mode, and yet like,
cool.
and I think to your point, it would be a very smart idea to have a free version of the game. Like let's say, you get a tutorial, you get the full tutorial, you can play 3, 4 characters, like the easiest possible characters in your game to learn, and maybe you can only play rank up
Here,
to
guys.
like silver, or let's say like maybe like 2 or 3 ranks higher than 0, just to get your feet wet. The competitive side, they're not going to touch that. They're not going to play a mode or play a version where they can't rank up. But for someone who's never touched the game, I mean, it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good solution.
And I looked up Killer Instinct, and if you want to see a game that has way too many achievements for a fighting game, it has 463 achievements in Killer Instinct.
Wow.
Let's see, the first win a versus match is at 32.7%. They tie to each character. So they don't have like a overall win one match. But yeah, there are achievements here that 0.3% of the player base have achieved. Oh, here it is. Win. Oh my goodness. Let's see if I can find one for. While I'm trying to find this, what do you think the achievement rate is for win? Let's see, 200 matches with a character.
200 matches in Killer Instinct.
Yeah.
Wow. 7%.
Mm-mm. Keep going down there.
Wow. Okay, Chris, it says 3%. 200 matches. That is wild.
Oh wait, I found win a rank match. Wait,
okay,
let's see if I can find. Oh, you know why I couldn't find it? It was that low. So let's see. Win a survival match.
1.6. That's right. It could be 1.6.
Let's see. Trying to find one for like the most generic character. And
I can't remember who's Raiden.
Wait, I can use a find here, right?
Yeah, there you go. Who's the most generic character, chat? And
let's see.
Oh, it was Jago.
Yeah, I was looking up. I was just searching for. Okay, so win a versus a match with Jago is at 32.7%. Well, for some of these characters, they are as low as 0.8% in terms of winning.
Who's 0.8?
Let's see. I think Fulgore. Let's see.
Fulgore.
Yeah, I remember that from that video. Let's see. Win a survival. Winning rank match as Saberwolf is at 1.2%.
Amazing.
And then we go like there are win a match with a characters in the 0.9, 0.8%.
That is wild.
So again, that may be a record for the lowest possible one. So for anyone who really wants to get like high value achievements, go play Killer Instinct, and you'll get those 0.8, 0.1% ones if you really want to game the Steam winning. Just like
the first Killer Instinct on
I remember that
one. Yeah. We were talking about Killer Instinct.
Yeah. But we're about an hour in and we can ramp out, so I do want to touch on Dead by Daylight because
let's do that.
And this I think is another really good example of kind of the chase and the problem of chasing competitive game design. Dead by Daylight now is, I think, now 7 years, I think, in terms of being around. It is a game that has earned, I think, as much of a toxic fan base as League of Legends had, or Dota.
Yeah, definitely.
It is a absolutely horrible game. if you're trying to onboard or bring someone new into it. And there's several big problems. One is the fact that the tutorial has not been touched or upgraded in 7 years. And in that time, they have released all kinds of new perks, there's all new kinds of killer powers and effects that can happen to you. New player is never going to learn that. I played matches as a survivor where I was up against like Freddy Krueger, Pinhead, and all of them had like crazy, insane new powers that I had no idea what the heck I was doing. All of a sudden, hooks were coming out and poking me, and it's like, well, what do I do? The game did not tell you anything, and they saved the tutorial. The messages are saved for the loading screen. And here's another pro tip for developers: don't leave your loading screen as your tutorial. That's not what you want to do there. And again, this problem is that for both the killer and for both the survivors, there's nothing about what is the game like playing it, or playing it today. And that, I think, is another essential point. If you're going to have any kind of like live service style competitive game where new characters, new features will be added, you have to update that tutorial. Because, like, one thing...
constantly.
For people who don't play Dead by Daylight, there's a perk called Dead Hard. And what it does is it gives you, essentially, an iframe dodge of a character's attack. It has been nerfed and buffed and re-nerfed and rebuffed. It's one of the most contentious perks in the entire game. And there is no mention of it ever in the tutorial for either side. And someone will argue, well, they mention it in like the a text-based manual that you have to go like 3 layers deep to find. That's not good either. Because again, the tutorial is your launch pad or your landing page for new people. If your tutorial is not teaching them something, they're not going to try and go and learn it themselves. Or they're not going to... I don't think there's ever been a player of any game who said to themselves, I finished the tutorial. Let me go read the manual now for the next hour. No, they're going to jump right into a game, and then they get crushed by every single new meta perk and new character. And it's like, again, what did I learn from that? What's my takeaway? Is it load up the game, get crushed, now do that for 100 more hours? And yeah, to Avery's comment, like, hop in, yep, and they don't, exactly, they do not care if you're new. And is that very big point about, yeah, exactly, Chris, I would love that to have, like, kind of like what they did in Left 4 Dead, where they had contextual prompts that would pop up for new players when you're learning the game.
Definitely.
You found a grenade. Throw it here. Hey, someone's down. Go pick them up. You can use a stim to do this. This character is smoke. Do that. And again, it's that key, and I think this is the trap a lot of competitive designers fall into, is that it gets to a point where it doesn't feel like they care about new players. All the new content is specifically spec'd to counter high-level meta play. Who cares about spending, 6 months redesigning the tutorial? We want to make sure that, top 10 players are, yeah, Chris, are having new content to play, and we don't want the meta to get stale. But again, it's that problem of, how is someone new going to learn your game without feeling horribly frustrated at it?
Yeah.
And yeah, Avery brought that point up. You can't use, character perks and killer perks until you level them up. And that is its own can of worms. And, trying to teach someone, okay, what perks and what items do I want? And let's not forget the fact that if you're playing as a killer, you have to deal with streaming teams who, all 4 players are perfectly in sync. And it is just a nasty game. Oh, and let's not forget, let's say you do play it online and you're a streamer and someone finds out your profile and then they send you hate messages because you played too good or you didn't play well enough. That's another fun thing as well, you know. That's another tutorial prompt. The player base is going to hate you no matter what you do.
Well, yeah, that's right, Chris. Like, literally, when I'm playing, I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing. Like it's so. Oh, I get thrown in there. I play the tutorial and I started playing it, and I don't know anything, and I'm instantly dead. And again, so you know, contextual prompts like that would be awesome. It's like, go find a generator. You've been seen. Like maybe you need to do this or whatever. But and it's really important. Like if you have a like, there's no reason that if you're running a live service game that you should not update the tutorial to match its current content. That is like literally just cutting off like your player base. Like if you want you're only catering to like a certain meta when you can have a larger player base with better matchmaking, better onboarding, etc. And so just catering to just the very very hardcore, you know, it ends up also leading to just a toxic player base also in the long run.
Yeah. And again, it's that situation of where is someone going to go to learn this game? How are they going to learn this game? And having things in there to better contextualize, this is this kind of stuff that, again, like when I get Seth on, when his internet is out right now, it may be coming back on, when we do the strategy game onboarding, there are huge parallels between competitive and strategy game onboarding. Mm-hmm. Both are about high-level play. Like, there is no such thing as a casual play of a Stellaris, or Europa Universalis, or in a Street Fighter game. If you're playing ranked, you need to learn what is it like to play these games at that level. You need to learn, okay, what do I need to do? Because, again, like with Dead by Daylight, I can tell you what happened. I loaded up my first match, it was all bots. You know how I knew it was a bot? Because I walked up and the bot just stood there while I was a killer. Like, yeah, I don't think this is high-level play, just standing there and not doing anything. And then I got my first ranked match, or I got my first, actual human match, and they ran circles around me. And it gets to that point where it's like, do I really want to play?
Yeah, like literally like embarrassing you, right? It's your first match and they're literally utterly just like playing as like toxic and embarrassing as possible. And again, it's like, why am I playing this? Like, and that again.
Mm-hmm. And
for me, it's still hard. Okay.
And we mentioned like the time factor, and that's another big point. Let's say there's a huge queue, or let's say there's a wait. So let's say it takes 10 minutes to actually get the game going, or let's say it takes like a few minutes to load the game up. Then you have to wait 5 to 10 minutes for matchmaking. Yep. Then you have a horrible experience for 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Do you really want to spend like another 40, 50 minutes of your life in agony playing one of these games?
I mean, like, I think like what, like a PUBG session takes about that long, right? And so does Dead by Daylight. It's like 40 minutes of just utter pain and getting crushed by like other players. And you have, I don't understand why you'd want to play that. There's so many other games you can play. And again, just, it's really important to have proper onboarding. You can't just throw the player in there to the sharks and expect them to live.
Yep. And with Dead by Daylight, I decided to look up the achievements for this one.
Ooh, nice.
And this one I actually did really good, and I'll explain why in a second. But in terms of raising a character level to level 10, that's, I think, unlocks either the first or second perk unlock for that character. It's at 56.3%. And that is a very low, thing to do. But the achievements generally stabilize after that. So they are keeping people. But as we get further down, a lot of the problem that Dead by Daylight has for new players is that there's so much investment in terms of unlocking new perks, getting them to, full prestige. So while it did keep those players at least to the 50% mark, it does quickly drop down. Like, let's see. And now a lot of their achievements are more character specific. So in terms of prestiging, looks like they're at a full prestige is at 17.3%.
Wow.
So I actually got one of the super low achievements, and that is where is I just saw it. Oh, it's really low. I know I have it. Is it right there? No. Oh, here it is. I got the Adept Huntress achievement, which is kill all 4 survivors, only using the Huntress's like basic perks, and that was at 2.2%. And to be like, that is not a common achievement. Like, that is a hard thing when you're trying to do matches without using any like the meta stuff. And I got really lucky there. But again, it's that case of, is this game courting new players? And I don't think it is. And as we get to like newer characters, the achievement rates go down. But another aspect that I want to touch on as a quick time check, we're about an hour and 10 in, so maybe we'll wrap this for the next 15-20 minutes or so. One thing that I want to touch on, I want to get your point on. Do you think every game can become a competitive or an esport related title? And the reason why I say that is with Dead by Daylight, I think a lot of the problems that this game has in terms of toxicity and onboarding is kind of trying to force it to be a competitive game. They're trying to force the season play, the rank matches. There have been, I think, a few Dead by Daylight tournaments, and from what I've heard from like players, like all of them just go horribly because like no one knows like what exactly rules or what does it mean to play competitively.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
I would definitely say no, and the main reason is like, due to customization, we were talking about earlier at the beginning, like the watering down of competitive games is just due to the nature. Like, it just needs to be one jersey color versus another jersey color. And so like anything like you would have a lot of issues like, wait, we can't use this certain killer, or we can't use you can't use this certain person. So there'd be a lot. I mean, games have been able to reach that point, like we were talking about with Smash Brothers. They were able to reach a consensus on it, but no, not every game has to be, because there has to be some standardization. So some games just can't be forced into it, and they try to, but you can't force a round peg into a triangle.
Yeah, and yeah, to Chris's comment, they benefit from a standard set of rules, and that is the common problem thing with like Dead by Daylight. There is no standard match in that game. Do you make it, a stream with friends versus a killer? Do you make it 4 random people versus a killer? What perks are allowed? Because certain perks work some perks are really well, if everyone's in full communication. So if you have a perk that, let's say, gives you, information, you have all your friends on voice chat, well, now that one perk goes to 4 people. Yep. And again, it's that problem of when you're trying to balance competitive play. And this, again, I think goes to what we were just saying in terms of trying to force it. If something comes out that is weird, or, it kind of breaks the normal rules and people find it to be good, you can guarantee the developers are going to most likely nerf that in a coming patch. Because if there's something that kind of stands out away from everything else, why shouldn't you play with that? And this is the problem for a lot of competitive games, is that, again, meta play. We had that whole discussion on the roundtable about it. Why, if I'm trying to play a game competitively, and I know that these 3 perks, or this set of cards, is the absolute best one right now, what is my reward for not doing that? Is it I get to lose more rank matches for the next 5 days, or for this season? And it's the kind of that issue that I had with Marvel Snap and when I was trying to play it, that Marvel Snap is very meta-driven in terms of what are the new cards that have been unlocked, as well what are the favorite locations. And there's people who really love that kind of, spikiness of, okay, on this day, these kinds of cards are now really popular. Okay, on this day, these kinds of cards are going to be the best. but I just don't find that interesting. And to Chris's comment about to learn a single player game and have that enjoyment of mastering a game and winning it is far more interesting to me than becoming, really good at a fighting game. Because what do I get out of that? If I want to spend 3,000 matches trying to learn it.
You know what? And I think me myself, as someone who's spent like 3,000 matches, more, I'd probably say I have like, I don't know, I don't even want to say how many matches, like 8,000 or something. I have a lot of matches, and I would honestly say, like, I think my time would have been better spent playing other games. And I do utilize the game I said to do, like, I do my cardio. It's like a daily ritual I do, but again, I could be studying way better games and other games and taking away other experiences, and that's just a lot of the things. It's like a competitive game you can never master. There will always be someone better than you. You will always have like competitive anxiety. So it's like there's not a lot of enticing things for it, and I think most people that play them will say, "Yeah, I enjoyed it, but maybe I probably would have rather played something else instead of a competitive game." Because I mean, I don't know it's not just about winning, but it's about enjoying also your experience. And so, like, if the losing is just completely unenjoyable, and it's hard to do, and so.
Yeah. And I think that is part of that issue, because for a lot of competitive games, there's basically only two kind of styles of playing it. You're either all the way at the bottom here, you have no idea what you're doing, or you're at the very top. And if you're at that top, then you're either playing this actually professionally, or you are routinely, top 10, top 50 in the game. And at that level, it is a very different experience when you are playing against people who are either, equal to you or even to you in skill. That, I think, is where that competitive nature or the esport level is popular. But again, how many people are going to experience that compared to, the actual market? Because you can say that, 60,000 people or, 600,000 copies of a fighting game have been sold. How many of those 600,000 copies ever will see top 100 or top 1,000 in that game? And to Avery's point, that's the other problem. The skills of these games oftentimes do not translate.
Right.
Unless you are, if we're talking like Evo level, fighting game players, typically they will play multiple fighting games. But that comes with how many hours it took to become like a grandmaster.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're like grandmasters at it, and that's basically what you're watching. Is grandmasters at fighting, and those are the only ones doing it.
Yeah. And yeah, to Chris's point, let me know when we have esport Slay the Spire. That will be my ticket in right there, or esport Inscription. But yeah, it's that question of, and I guess like this will be like one of my final questions for everyone. Can a game that is really popular for competitive players bring in non-competitive players, and vice versa? Like, could a competitive player really get into a game that, let's say, has full-on variance? That is about, yes, it's a fighting game, but I can equip, +7 armor, and, I can put a modifier that my fireball has extra tracking, and stuff like that to it.
I think with a broad enough player base and excellent matchmaking, I think that's completely possible. You just have to have it's just really important to have a good community, a broad player base, and excellent matchmaking. And I think you can achieve that goal, Josh. Definitely. Very rare, though.
Yeah. And it is certainly a shame. Like, let's see. Yeah. Like, we've seen some developers are, again, like we said, they're trying to bridge that gap with having more enticing single player modes Mortal Kombat is probably the king of that right now.
Yeah, they are.
That they full on create like an entire single player driven story to this game. And while that is good, I think the genius of that is that it brings people to the game. So they're going to spend 40, 50, $60 on that single player side, and they'll never touch the multiplayer. But again, it's that case of, is that the ultimate goal? To have a game that has a 100% single player driven campaign, a 100% multiplayer rank mode, and these two sides will never cross over. And it's a tough question.
That is definitely a tough question, Josh, for sure.
And again, like for the games that are trying to force it, and they're kind of making the game less interesting. The problem, I think, one of the things that we learned this last week with so many live service games being shut down, is that if you try to make your game the next Fortnite or the next Fall Guys or the next Among Us, people are just going to play those games. And you cannot rely on your game becoming the next big, phenomenon. And that's what crushed the MMOG genre in the 2000s. Everyone thought, we can make a 5 million subscriber a month, World of Warcraft clone, or, a game similar to it. They'll go over to that. No, they did not. And now the market for MMOs is now maybe roughly 2.5 million. So there's even a smaller slice of that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and like Chris's point, the game would be to make it enjoyable for both single player and versus. Would be a goal for sure.
Mm-hmm. I just hope we will someday see a competitive game with the customization and the variants. And I remember a developer, this was a long time ago, 5-6 years ago, was trying to come up with a game show style roguelike. A multiplayer roguelike where, every week it's a different match and a different challenge for the contestants. And that could be something that could work. But again, this is, I think, and this will be my final point. The difficulty of all this is the consumer base. If your game does not have enough people to sustain its multiplayer, all your ideas, all your grand, 6-7 years of content you want to add to the game is gone. Because there's not a player base to support it. But again, if you make your game too small at launch and people don't join it, then you're kind of killing it from that side.
Definitely.
Yep, and exactly, Avery, that the people who stick with an MMO, who stick with a fighting game, or stick with a mobile game, they're not going anywhere else. And that's good for that game, but it's bad for that market. Because if you say to yourself, Genshin Impact has all these players, let me make my Genshin Impact competitor, those Genshin Impact fans, I can guarantee you they are not going to try your game. Especially if they're the ones who spent hundreds or thousands of dollars on their gacha accounts. Narrative. Besides Mortal Kombat.
Tekken 7 kind of has a little bit of a story.
Full on single player like that. Tekken would be a close one.
Grand Blue, maybe.
Oh, I have not touched any of the Grand Blue Guilty Gear style games. They
would though. They seem like they would.
I think I own several of the Guilty Gears on from
not Blaze Blue.
Apparently, I own Guilty Gear 3rd Rev 2, and I can tell you I have never loaded that up at all.
Nice. Soul Calibur.
I think I own Soul. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I own Soul Calibur 5. And I can tell you I have not even installed that one. Let's see. Dead or Alive. Definitely didn't play the latest one. I did the Soul Calibur, the kind of Soul Edge mode I really like from way back in the day.
The old one. I think the PS1 Soul Calibur was pretty cool.
Yep, I do own Soul Calibur 6, and I have not touched it at all.
I have not touched that one either myself.
And yeah, again, it's that issue that what would drive someone to a competitive game is very different than what would drive someone to play a single player game. Could have been from a bundle or a fanatical. I think it was Humble
I
Choice that I got mine.
I need to check if I have Soul Calibur 6 or not, because now
Yeah.
I
You never know.
never know, man.
It could just randomly show up on your Steam account one day. And yet, again, I think trying to
That's how we get people in. That's how they get people into competitive games. They just randomly give you the game.
just
Here I
like
go.
one day you load up your Steam, hey, you got Street Fighter, go. There's some viral marketing right there.
That is a good idea.
But like it's hard to get someone invested in these games, and it's hard to get someone who has no interest in a competitive game to try them. Like some games get away with this, like the big ones, like your League of Legends, your Dota. The spectacle of playing, the most popular, MOBA or the most popular MMO. Yeah, I want that, Chris. Do that. Do Slay the Fighter.
Play the fighter, definitely.
What was it? Slay the Streets. Fight the Spire. There we go. Fight the Spire. But you may get that could lead to a legal trademark if it's too close to Slay the Spire there. But again, it's
Has it already been done? Thanatos?
Yep.
Card
See?
crack. Yeah, there we go.
Again, I hope someone's writing this list down of all the
Chris is
billion-dollar
keeping
ideas.
track.
Good. Next year, Chris will announce he's now a billionaire from all the ideas, and he'd like to thank Game Wisdom for making him a billionaire. Yeah, but again, like I cannot imagine myself investing in a competitive game in the same way that I would invest in playing a Slay the Spire or a Monster Train or just any kind of very single player, very variety driven kind of design. Because again, you can't really do variety in a multiplayer game. You can't say, okay, on this match now fire damage is 60% better. Like imagine like having like it show up like on Evo, like, oh, we got the random screen upside down modifier for the grand finals on Evo. Well, I guess they're gonna have to deal with that.
Yeah, you can't have any randomization at all. Like it is just, and I think that Dead by Daylight suffers from that because there's a lot of random stuff in that game, and so it really suffers from the randomization because you just cannot have anything random in a highly competitive game at all.
Mm-hmm. Whereas for a lot of single player driven or even just casual multiplayer games, having that randomness is a huge deal in order to keep people invested. People want new content. They want new maps and new modifiers and give me all the new perks and weapons. And like with Back 4 Blood, like announcing that there's going to be no new content for it, most likely that game is not going to do as well as Left 4 Dead. Because there's a huge, huge difference between saying, this game is going to be released and we're going to do nothing else with it, versus saying, okay, we're going to support this game, but now no more content. And speaking about Darkest Dungeon, I think the second one's going to come to Steam on Monday with NextFest.
Oh, wow, already.
Yeah. So let's see what Back 4 Blood is doing in terms of its... I'm sure the forums are very happy right now. Oh, good. Let's see. This ends. They have a bad track record. The game is... Oh, someone's saying we should review bomb the game. That's always good.
Oh, great. Please don't review bomb games. I can't remember either. It's on tape. It's on tape, Chris, but I can't remember.
And again, like, if you're trying to force a game to be a live service or be a competitive game, it's just not going to work out well. And you need to build your game from the ground up. And again, I think my final times 5 point is, I think a lot of developers are leaving a lot of meat on the table in terms of not doing better onboarding. like we said, like one of the advantages I think of the fact that the single or casual side is so separate from the competitive side is you could release like a free mode of your game. You could say just make Street Fighter 6 a story mode, or
Yeah.
story training and rank up to, I don't know, bronze plus, or they call like a second or third rank. Make that entirely free, and I can guarantee you're not going to lose any money on that, because the competitive players, they're going to buy your game day one, week one, full price, and they're never going to touch the casual mode. But who knows? Maybe you could get someone who's interested in this game to try it, but who's not $60 interested. And it's weird how competitive games, either they go on no sales, or they go like 95% off in sale after like a year.
Yeah, very strange.
But my voice is dying and my neck is still hurting from all the monitor adjusting, so that'll be my last point. So anything from you?
Well, I mean, definitely if you are working on a live service game, the onboarding needs to constantly be updated, and it has to reflect the current state of the game. And I think right now, where we sit with AI, that we have the ability to like literally recreate matches at certain levels and certain skills, and so that should be implemented more often. And let's see here. I guess other than that, I guess we basically covered everything, Josh.
Mm-hmm. And again, if someone can possibly square these two circles and figure out how to engage single players into competitive, or even competitive into single player, I'm sure there is a lot of money there. But
a lot of money.
Again, it's going to be a very tough sell, and it's going to require, I think, a lot of creative design to try and get both groups into that space. Because once you lose new players, your game is now on a ticking clock, or a countdown clock. Because you're not getting any new people in. So anyone who's old at the game who quits, that's kind of like a permanent loss to your consumer base. And as we've seen, if it gets too low and people can't find matches, that's it. Like, your game is done.
It's over.
Alright. But I think with that said, we can wrap things up for this way. I think this was a really good conversation. Snow, neck pain, and delays notwithstanding.
Yeah, great. I think we went excellent.
So for next week, I think we're going to talk about contextual mechanics, or contextual design, and how mechanics can fit different themes or contexts based on the designer. I will have a critical thought. I actually just edited it 4 hours ago before we started the stream, so that will be going up on Monday. So be sure.
When did you sleep, Josh?
Who knows? Yeah.
Who knows? No one knows.
Yeah. But that will be going up for Monday, so be sure to tune in for that. And do the liking, subscribing, commenting, bell ringing I keep hearing people say now.
Yeah, ring the bells. Channel. Ring the bell for the channel. Join the Game Wisdom. Buy Josh's books. But definitely join the Game Wisdom Discord. We can talk about things and bring up new topics, etc. Do the liking, subscribing. My links are down below. If you need help with an Unreal project or something, we do consulting work, so please contact me. Other than that, Josh?
Yeah. And if you need a playtesting consulting, or want to do like a sponsored piece about your game here on the channel, reach out to me that way. Again, links, everything down below, up there. Buy 70 copies of the book. It'll make you the best fighting game player. None of the books are about fighting games just yet.
Not yet. Coming soon.
Yeah. And we will be back next Saturday around 5 p.m. ET. Weather, back pain, neck pain notwithstanding.
We'll be here.
So, everyone, have a great rest of your weekend, and come back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. And until next time, take care.